Thank you. Okay, I think I'm the last speaker of this forum. Very dangerous.
That means the most important.
Yeah. Very dangerous position. Try to keep you attentive. So thank you to give me the opportunity to present this study. I am Vincent Blanfort from CIRAD. I'm an agroecology scientist working on carbon sequestration, balance carbon in farming, in grazing system. And I will present you a study, 4 pour 1000 Outre-mer. It's talking about carbon storage in agriculture and forest soil in the French overseas territories to mitigate and adapt to climate change. So this study is conducted by cooperation between CIRAD with my colleague Julien Demenoy, Elie Daguet, and INRAE with Jean-Marc Blasi and IRD, Alain Arbrecht. And it's produced after an agreement between the Ministry of Overseas in French with 4 pour 1000 initiative and ADEME French Energy Agency. Next slide, please. So this project tried to match with Overseas Trajectory 5.0. It's a national initiative that promotes a challenge of sustainable development in overseas. And there is 5 objectives, and we match with, especially with 2 objectives, 0 carbon and 0 vulnerability. Next. And about a little context, a study was conducted by INRA in French, concerning storing carbon in French area, but it was not concerning overseas territory. And the objective is to identify agricultural and forestry practices to store more carbon, quantify the associated additional storage potential, to map it, and to quantify the implementation cost. And it's also an international reference because actually we can imagine replication, for example, of this expertise in other countries, like EJP, European Joint Partnership. And as says Elisabeth Claverie from CIRAD, it's very important to also to consider the sharing and cooperation with Global South. Next slide. So the French tropical overseas territories present some specificities, so that should be taken into account with a view of to extending the 4 per 1000 French study made by INRA, because French territory are situated in tropical area with specific petrological, climatic, etc. That must be taken account, of course. Next slide. The objective of the study was to state the state of the art. I heard a lot of things in COP27 and concerning science. I understand that it's very important to produce reference, new reference, perhaps, but it's also very important to destock this reference and to share the knowledge with different stakeholders. And of course, it concerns carbon sequestration in soil. And the ambition of this, of destock the knowledge, is to contribute to the implementation by agriculture and forestry stakeholders of these new practices to contribute to climate change mitigation and adaptation through carbon storage inside 4 pour 1000 initiative. I will give you some results very quickly. The study is coming now at the end. We are actually making some delivery. And for example, about the stock, carbon stock, you can see is very important. For example, compared to France. In France, there is 500,000 million tons of carbon. And if you look at French Guiana, for example, there is 25% of the stock that is localized in this overseas department. And you can see also the mean organic carbon stock per hectare, and you can see there is a big potential in this territory. So what is important is to preserve this stock and try to also to improve it. And in this territory, oh, sorry, this next slide, sorry, excuse me. So I was saying it was important to protect this carbon stock in different systems. So in these territories, of course, forest cover a main of the superficie. Okay, you can see it was the result. So I was saying that French Guiana the high potential. And next slide, please. So this potential has to be protected because you can see the main cover of this territory is forest, of course, but actually there is a trend to deforestation, of course. And when you convert the convention of forest to annual or perennial crops conduct to decrease the soil carbon stock. Convention for perennial crops like banana, sugarcane to annual crops conduct also to decrease the stock, but convention, for example, from this culture or the forest to grassland, it conducts to increase the soil carbon stock. Next slide, please. I came to conclusion. So soil carbon stock in this territory are on decline because of land use change, forest versus crops, for example. And there is also low carbon input in conventional practices. So these studies show that new practices are possible, agroecology, agroforestry, and that are able to co-construct land use scenario in view of the 5.0 trajectory, for example. And for that, we need more data and research to fill the gaps. It's actually, there is a lot of data from CIRAD, IRAD, INRA, and it concerns mainly the biological process, but there is often a gap between biological process and the practices, and there is another gap between practices and implementation of these practices at different scale. So we have to conduct other research. Next slide, please. And the challenges. What are the challenges? At national level, for example, for this territory, these territories are taken account in national carbon accounting. For example, French Guiana comes from more than 50% of aerial carbon of forest stock of France. So it's very important. At territorial level, there is another challenge in our research can support indigenous development of this territory because agriculture is a fundamental sector, but it must be also compatible with the net zero, of course. At farm level, as I was saying, we must be able to destock our knowledge to give some efficient practices. And the last point is to sharing this knowledge and to practice cooperation with Global South. And I will give you a very concrete example. In next slide, please. In Amazonia, for example, I know we are in Africa, but there is other land with very important challenges concerning climate change. And in Amazonia, CIRAD, IRD, INRA have a lot of projects in cooperation in this area. And we could see this area we have a landscape that share very efficient area, for example, that can be sorry, excuse me. This area can produce ecosystem services in integrating forest, pasture farms, and landscape. Instead of considering protection of the forest and agriculture production in another side, we can combine the two in a new model, in a new landscape model. And so we are practicing cooperation between, for example, Guyana and Brazil to have these aims possible. Thank you, and you can have some details on our internet website. Thank you for your attention.
you.